Come on in, Clark County. It's Rob Anderson with Reform Clark County. And on Reformcast today, we're going to be just doing a quick little update on the anti-ICE resolution that's happening. Also, maybe an update on the Fort Vancouver Library resignation situation, which might not be over. But we're going to turn our attention north to Ridgefield School District, and I'm going to share a story that's going to probably surprise you. And it's something that I've been working on for months. So come on in to Reformcast. So this week's update with what's happening in Clark County, in particular the Clark County Council, is going to be really short. Just want to kind of focus on a couple of things. First, we haven't heard anything really on the anti-ICE resolution, what I'm calling the anti-ICE resolution. Others are calling immigration or calling it other things, wanting to kind of maybe distance themselves a little bit, which I found that fascinating. When Sue Marshall gave her comments, she seemed to backtrack and pull away from this being an immigration resolution, which she used those terms. They put it on the agenda in those terms, but yet after the rambunctious meeting, she seemed to kind of want to try to back away a little bit from that. We're not going to let her do that. But this week, the first week of February, was really calm, and it was the calm before the storm is what I call it, because I was expecting for the draft resolution to come to county council time on Wednesday, 1 o'clock, but it didn't. It wasn't on the agenda. And so I'm going to make a few predictions because by the time you watch this, it's going to be the following week. And so I believe that a resolution is going to come that will really, really, really disappoint the far left people. So the Indivisible group, the PDX organizers, the anarchists that showed up there, and I think that because they were advocating for a resolution that would be stronger than the city of Vancouver's. I think that they're going to find that the resolution that's going to come out will be watered down in their version, their way, which I personally believe that there's not a need for a resolution, in that elected officials need to really kind of stay in their lane. For example, if in law enforcement, which are executive branch, if they abuse their power, everyone is wanting that not to happen and for justice and review. So what does it look like for the legislative branch when elected officials such as county councilors or more people like that, when they make inflammatory statements, when they go and throw gasoline, rhetoric, figuratively speaking, on situations and make it worse? Isn't that the same as maybe a law enforcement that goes too far, or makes inflammatory statements or makes things worse, crosses the line? Where is the line with those? So we'll see what happens when the draft resolution hits the public airways, so to speak, and keep an eye on that for sure. But another issue is the Fort Vancouver Library resignation. So as you probably know, there was a trustee that resigned because the strategic plan wasn't woke enough. It didn't include language like equity. It didn't include language like intellectual freedom and other buzzwords that are so important to that side. And so she resigned.
I want to use my board comments today to formally resign my position as a trustee of Fort Vancouver Regional Libraries, effective immediately. I entered this role with a sincere commitment to public service, institutional integrity, and the long-term health of this district. I believe deeply in the mission of public libraries. I also believe that when governance requires the suppression of clear values in order to preserve internal harmony, participation becomes complicity, and that is not something I can offer.
And I don't believe that that's going to be the end of it. I think that I believe that there will be kind of reworkings to maybe try to reinterpret that vote that took place and try to reshape it to be less impactful. I think the other thing that might happen is that the Clark County Council might be looking to get involved and throw their weight around, so to speak, and see if they can, because they have a tendency that when there's a vote that's coming or had that they don't like, instead of just kind of accepting it as democracy, they like to interfere with it and tamper with those boards, hence the CTRAN board, and reshape outcomes. And that very well could be coming regarding the Fort Vancouver Library trustees. So we'll keep a close eye on that one as well. So today we're going to turn our attention to Ridgefield School District, and for good reason. It's a story that I've been working on for several months now, and it's going to blow your mind. Now, as you know, the school districts, one of their main priorities is to protect students, obviously to educate them, but to protect them. And this is a story where that did not happen on multiple levels. And it really has to do with complaints that were issued by students, telling the school officials about this bad behavior of this coach, mostly getting ignored. And then for some bizarre reason, the school district decides to elevate and celebrate the coach in question. And then in the end, a resignation comes about, and the students' identities, they get outed. They get outed through a public records request. So let's back up to 2023 in the Ridgefield School District, when several students were starting to issue complaints about a cheer coach, Angela Campbell. But these complaints, for some reason, from the parents' perspective, weren't getting much of any traction, and weren't getting a lot of answers, not getting a lot of results. And the issues continued to build in 2024 and in 2025. Now, was there a reason why these complaints weren't taken as serious? Was it maybe because this cheer coach did lead the cheer squad to a third place, standing at state finals, state competition? Maybe there could be pressure to not to maybe look the other way on a coach that was perceived as succeeding on a competitive scale. Or was it the fact that she was also an assistant principal in the Woodland School District? So this just wasn't some coach, but this was also someone who was, a teacher, administrator at a neighboring school district. I don't know. But what we do know is that there wasn't much happening at all. In fact, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, is that on May 30th, 2025, when parents can't get any traction, the students can't get any traction, or apparently they couldn't get any, the school district, Ridgefield School District, decides to celebrate the coach in question. Even though she's being investigated, they decided to elevate her, to celebrate her with a big Facebook post that says, "Big congratulations are in order," because they nominated her for Coach of the Year at the state level. So big congratulations are in order. These prestigious nominations are a reflection of their incredible leadership, dedication, and positive impact they have on our student athletes and school community. Well, that was the last straw for one of the parents, who decided to contact me and say, "Can you help? I'm not getting anywhere. I can't get real results or even get answers at that point. Can you please help?" So I listened to the story, and I said, "Listen, why don't we put together public records request? You put one in, and then I'll put one in." The school district knows me because of the PDC complaint, which I successfully filed against them and demonstrated that they broke state election law. so they know my name, and so the parent put in the public records request that I helped kind of develop, and then that was June 3rd. So so May 30th, Coach of the Year. June 3rd, the parent submits the public records request. June 4th, the next day, I submit a public records request at 10:31, and I say that because just 2 hours later, on the same day, the school district athletic director calls the parent and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Can we talk? And let's meet right away." The next day, they meet. And the parent doesn't, from my knowledge, the parent doesn't give any new information, just backs up the complaints that they already had. And lo and behold, on June 9th, just 4 days later, the coach announces that she is resigning. So let's get this straight. May 30th, hooray, Coach of the Year. June 9th, I'm out of here. She's resigning. And what we find out in public records requests is that it didn't quite go down that way. It was actually the school district the athletic director, because once they finally got serious about those complaints and really looked hard at it, realized, yeah, we got to do something about this. And in the public records says, I made the decision to part ways with Coach Campbell. So, and we see this often in school districts where some bad behavior happens, and instead of dealing with it, instead of, that official having to deal with the consequences of their behavior, they're given the choice to resign. And that's what happened here. So the coach resigns, giving the resignation, and that is not accountability. That is the opposite of it. And it really kind of raised a lot of questions in this. And in the public records that later came, we see that yes, the letter of directive, the complaints were valid. Yes. And, things like telling a student of you are effing useless, and profanity, and cussing them out, and targeting certain students and shaming others. I mean, making it all about her reputation and not caring and putting the needs of the students first. And that is the first duty of these school districts, besides education, is to protect them. And clearly they weren't doing that. They finally stepped into attention after the public records request that the parent and I put in, and the coach resigned and escaped quietly in the middle of the night, disappeared. But we'll get back to what happened to her. And so that we thought was the end of the story, when really it got worse. Adding insult to injury, the public records request finally comes out, and in August, and it is full of unredacted names of students. Now, let me just tell you, one of the main responsibilities of administrators in this situation when releasing records to the public is to protect the students, to make sure that their identities are not out, and especially in situations like this that were revolving around complaints about a coach, and I mean very emotionally charged situations here. And instead of protecting them, the school district official in particular, I don't know if she's directly responsible, but she is the public records officer, Paula McCoy, released records that had multiple students' names, not just one, not two, not three, but 9 students' full either first and last names, student IDs were released. And we're not talking about volumes and volumes, hundreds of documents. We're talking about 16 documents. 16 documents. And out of those 16 documents, 6 documents contained unredacted students' names. either first, last, student ID, you name it. Witnesses to the complaints themselves with the students' names. So 17 times students' names were exposed out of these 16 documents. So the district was notified, and the district decided to, do a second release, a cleaner release, or fix this problem. And so they released a new documents, PRR results, in October, and also claimed with an email stating that, it was only one document that was compromised, and there was only one student whose name was put out there, which was not true, was false. So was this clean version in October? Did it fix the problem? It was worse. It was worse. It had more unredacted names. They included the past one. It just 21 documents were released, more names, 9 students. I mean, it was just as if they don't care. It was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe it. Or the parent involved. And so just to kind of show you, now I redacted the name at the top, but this is what I received. I'm not going to let you kind of focus in on it, but this is what it's supposed to look like. And it's just pretty wild that that this would happen at all, but it did, and it came with an insulting denial of saying, nope, it was only one student, only one document, which was just flat out not true. In fact, later on, they would, in December, when I put forward wanting a comment from the school district, they pretty much confirmed, saying, "Yep, yeah, we blew it. There was that's true. There was multiple. It wasn't just one document. It was, I believe that they maybe said they believe it's only 5. It's either 5 or 6, but 17. Yep, 17 names were included in these public records. But it was all done in good faith. It was all done in good faith. There was no negligence. There was no retaliation. There was nothing. It was just, a good faith kind of error. Again, their main duty is to protect students and protect them, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen throughout the whole process. And so these students' names were released to the public in these records, and in fact, it was so bad that one of the documents, the title of the document was one of the main complainant. So it wasn't just like, buried in the documents and missed it. It was the actual one of them was the actual full name of the student in the document released as the title. It's like, clearly no one did anyone really look at this? Did they really take this serious? And by the way, this school official, public records officer, makes $174,000 a year. I mean, this is their job, to make sure that this doesn't happen. This is what our taxpayer dollars are paying these high administrative costs, and we're always told, hey, well, they got to be a top professional. They got to be, we got to pay them this much because we can't get top talent without top dollar. Yet this was just reckless, possibly negligent, and gross negligent, and maybe, I don't know, but it could be retaliation. And so the whole story is just terrible. And so where's the coach who resigned with little to no consequences? She's back in the schools as assistant principal at the Winlock School District and their Title IX coordinator. So there doesn't appear to be any consequences, any changes there. And where the students are left with nothing. They're left with the clear message that their complaints won't really matter until enough rattling and noise or threat that they might be exposed. And then, for the bonus, they're going to get outed. Their identities are going to be released. So how does that help with future complaints? The whole thing is a train wreck. So thought you should know what has happened. There's going to be 2 articles that are dropping that are in connection with this. So if you have more questions, you want to look into this more, read the 2 articles that are coming out about the Ridgefield School District ignoring the abuse complaints and then praising the coach and then outing them as a bonus. So, well, that's this episode of Reformcast. Hit the like, share, subscribe, join, whatever options you have there. And if you want to support the show, if you like it, you want to help it continue on, go to my Give, Send, Go at Reform Clark County. And don't forget, you, with God's help, you are the catalyst to reform.